Storyblocks Audio. Storyblocks Audio. Storyblocks Audio. Storyblocks Audio. Storyblocks Audio. Storyblocks Audio.
Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. All right. Welcome to the Choose to Change 90-day re-entry program. If you are a visitor or new to the program, we welcome you and we are glad you are here. Many of us walked into these rooms not sure of what to expect, but many of us stayed in these rooms because we saw real people with real problems who had real hope. This 90-day reentry program is a self-supporting group sponsored by the Choose to Change Foundation. There are no dues or fees to attend a class, but we do encourage donations from our members and to anyone who believes in what we are doing. The only requirement for membership is a sincere desire to change your life. So if you're ready, then you are in the right place. Through this program, you will learn the tools and resources to finally change your life forever and a relationship-based support system to keep you going. For many of us, there is no easy way out of the mess we create in our lives, even if it wasn't your fault. But the good news is that there is a way out, if you would choose to believe in the impossible. My name is Frank Salazar. I'm a member of the Choose to Change program and the 90-day reentry program. And we have a special, we're doing things a little bit different today. Now, before we get to that, I've been reading this book, The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch, and he's a professor from Carnegie Mellon. And the way they would do it, it was this special homework assignment. Each professor had to do a lecture if it was the last lecture they would give. Well, he was actually diagnosed with cancer, and it was the last lecture that he gave. And he did like all these things of just showing his family what he did, what he left behind, he left like this outline for the students and for the teachers. And I thought that's pretty cool. Orlando does something similar. He doesn't say this is my last lesson. He teaches as if it's his last lesson, and what he does is he prepares us, he teaches us, he gives us outlines. And what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be watching the video from the Choose to Change was the dinner auction that we just had a few weeks ago, and that is the living testimony, that is the living legacy of Orlando Salinas. So that's what we're gonna watch, and now we're gonna watch the video, and after the video, I'll turn it over for questions and comments. We'll just wait for the video to start. Is it ready? Okay. Are you going to turn off the lights?
I just had a dream that I was going to change my life, and I wasn't sure how it was going to all work out. But 10 years into my freedom and change, I had started my own business, but I was coming to church, and just God started working in me about possibly going back into the prison system and looking for men like me. And I thought of building an organization, because I just figured that's what I needed in order to go into a prison. So the idea of Choose to Change came because in my mind and everything that I had learned in the last 15 years prior, in prison and out of prison, is that life change was a choice.
Even back in those days, he was talking about wanting to change men's life, wanting to change lives of people. Half of what he said I thought was crazy at the time. However, and to see all these years later, to see his dream come to fruition and see the lives that are changed makes me realize maybe he wasn't so crazy after all.
For some of us, this is the last chance before the system throws away the key on us and locks us for forever. And this is my last chance. There's no other place that I wanted to be, because I know that the way I was living, it only takes to prison. It only takes you to a hospital. It only takes you to the grave.
There's life and there's death. There's right and there's wrong. And I knew that you had to choose. And in my experience in rehabs and my experience with AA, taught me that choice was the key in everything I've ever read and researched to the pivoting point to life change. And so Choose to Change was born. It wasn't just an idea in my head. We go to my mom's every Sunday after church, and I remember telling my family, I want to go into the prisons. And that's how it started. And then I said, well, I have to learn to be a speaker. They said, well, why don't you start here? So I sat at the head of the table, and they said, just tell us something. so I said, okay. So every Sunday I came with a 5-minute little speech about life change, and I started speaking in front of them. But the seed to wanting to be a speaker was planted the first time I went to prison, which was I was 18, 19 years old. But I remember they took us to this gym to see this speaker. And at the time, I didn't know what was going on. Well, I went to hear this speaker, and this guy started speaking about he came to Houston, Texas, with $500 in his pocket. He started selling mattresses on the side of the road in Houston, Texas. And it's like, okay. Well, it turned out to be Mattress Mac.
Beautiful bedroom furniture at reasonable prices. You looked all over Houston.
I didn't know him at the time, but it was years later that wait a minute, I know this guy.
Gallery Furniture will save you money. Gallery saves you money.
And I remember that was the first time. I was like maybe 19 years old in prison. I mean, I was thinking about anything change. Just heard this story. But the seed was planted that you could change your life. And not only change your life, but be successful. And I think that just stayed in my heart, because I got out of prison at the age of 24 and became a drug addict. I didn't become a successful entrepreneur back then.
My name's Tim Brown. I'm the owner of Brown Family Funeral Home and Rick Brown Family Funeral Homes. We've been in business for 25 years here in the Rio Grande Valley. When I first met Orlando, he asked me if I'd go eat lunch with him. And I can remember sitting there, and Orlando's across the booth from me, and he's telling me his dream, and he tells me his testimony. And first of all, he tells his testimony, and me growing up the way I grew up and Orlando growing up the way he grew up, those are two different scenarios. And so I can remember thinking there, how in the world do I get out of here? But, even at that time, he was so driven on, I have something to offer people that want to change their lives.
So then when I went to prison the second time, that I really wanted to change my life and started seeking answers, is when I remembered. I said, wow, imagine if I could be like Mattress Mac. From nothing, getting out of prison and becoming successful. Man, that would be a powerful story. So what happened when I went back to prison, my mission was to figure out why. Why couldn't I change my life? Why did I have God in my heart, but yet I couldn't change my life? I found answers in reading. And I picked up a book on personal development. I had never heard those words before, personal development. It had to do with personal growth, leadership, and me actually changing. That had never occurred to me, that if life was going to change, that I had to change. When I got out of prison, I continued my education, and I knew or believed that if I continued this education, that somehow I would overcome. And sure enough, I did. So by the time Choose to Change started coming into the picture, I was being successful in my business. I had paid off my house, and in my mind, it was like, okay, it's time to go back in. It's time to do something. And Choose to Change started to grow. When I went and took my training to become a volunteer with the state of Texas, I found out that I could also go into the prison. Not only the parole office. I thought, you know what, I'll start a prison ministry. So I went to Pastor and told him, hey, Pastor, I want to start a prison ministry. And he kind of looked at me and said, go ahead, try it out. See what happens. I started going into a prison as well, not only the parole office. And in the prison, it was they're not coming to church, right? But at least I'd tell them about the church and what I do. And then at the parole office, I'd invite them to our church.
I am Hector Garza. I'm 47 years old, and I'm a member of Choose to Change Foundation, recovered drug addict and alcoholic, and this is my testimony. I started using drugs at the early age, 13, 14 years old. I never thought I was going to become an addict. It started like a game and became an addiction. And I brought all that addiction over to the United States, and I started doing the same things. I started getting in trouble with the law until there was a day that there was no more probation, and it was time to go to prison. This last incarceration, I got shot by the McAllen Police Department. I was shot in the chest and under my arm. I went to the hospital. After that, they took me to jail. Went to prison again. And that's when I realized that I needed to change my whole life, because I thought I was capable to do both things, provide for a family, but I wasn't even able to control myself. And that's why I ended up in jail so many times. And being in prison, I made a decision to change my life, to change.
No matter who you talk to, when it comes to rehab and rehabilitation or prison, what really matters is when you get out. So I wanted to catch people right there, once they were out, which is why Choose to Change exists, to fill that gap, because that's where people are failing the most. So I went to my pastor and asked him if I could start some kind of program. I actually thought he was going to say no. So I didn't think too far ahead on that. So when he said yes, I was like, okay, so let me try this out. Now what do I do now? I decided, well, I'll just start a mentoring class. Just start helping people coming out of prison to kind of re-enter into society, which is what we have today, right? A re-entry program. And I started teaching things that I had learned throughout the years about personal development and personal change.
The first week I got released from prison, I went to parole office to report, and I saw a flyer from the church and from Choose to Change, and I thought that's the first thing I gotta do to stay away from old friends and from old places and from old habits. You know, that I need to get involved and doing something that is going to lead me some other way than the one I was used to follow all the time. And it was the only one. That was the only brochure like it was meant for me. And so I took it and I started coming. I got released on Tuesday, and on Thursday I was coming to the classes.
People started coming to my mentoring class. And so what I was doing, I was actually training myself to be a speaker. So I listened to a lot of speakers. All these principles that I was learning, I was felt like, wait a minute, these guys, this is biblical. But I had never understood it that way. So when I started learning that these principles were spiritual, I started putting them together from a biblical perspective, and I started teaching it. And this is what we have today.
I did classes, AA, NA. I did it all. I went to psychiatric hospitals, personal counseling and all those things, and nothing worked for me. I didn't want to be surrounded by people that go day by day. One of the mottos that AANA has is just for today. I didn't want to live just for today. The Bible says that if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. You know, why I'm going to continue believing that I'm an addict? I don't need to believe those things. I don't want to believe those things. I want something with much substance, like I said. I want something that helps me change my life. And I know it hasn't been easy. Orlando helping us with these classes, and not just that. Orlando has found some jobs for some other people. That alone is just a blessing, man, for someone just released from prison that has nothing, having a job the next day. That's something that nobody does. Nobody does that.
All too often, when you talk to an ex-convict, they left Jesus in prison. They left the skills that they learned in prison, because when they get into the real world, they have no help. And so because of the struggles that come, they revert to what they know. And they haven't learned anything to get them to be the man of character that they need to be. They haven't learned anything to teach them how to be a husband, how to be a father. Well, that's what Orlando's program with the Choose to Change does differently, is that it catches them even outside of prison. When they come through the parole office, Orlando catches them there. He has a class for them. They come and they learn not only what they learned in prison, but now they're learning real world experiences. Orlando's phone is available to them. If they're struggling, I don't care if it's the middle of the night, he answers the phone and walks them through it. And so, you know, that's the big difference between a typical prison ministry and what Orlando does. The added benefit of having the parole office, the parole ministry, Orlando is helping them change their life in the real world, not in an environment where they're there and they're not having to deal with their family, they're not having to deal with their kids, they're not having to deal with their finances. He's dealing with them when all of life's pressures is pushing on them.
As the years have gone by, I can see the fruit. Several men that have gone on from Dallas and Houston and Corpus Christi, where I started going into the churches and to the prison units in their areas. They started a Choose to Change little branch over there in Austin, Texas, in Temple, Texas. And the seeds are being planted. People are starting to realize and know what we do and how critical it is. Because every one of us knows someone that's struggling with drugs and alcohol, that's coming out of prison, that needs some mentoring. No, I can't help everybody, but at least there's a path. There's a pathway to success. There's a pathway to change. Today, if you choose to, you can change your life forever.
I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. Send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. I hear the whisper underneath your breath. I hear you whisper you have nothing.
There's very few people that have a dream like he had, and that's all that consumes them. Every conversation was about this dream. I'm going to do something that's going to change the lives of people. And every conversation revolved around, I'm looking for people that want to change their lives. And sometimes you thought, okay, man, this is a little overboard. But to see him find the people that want to change their lives, to facilitate that, to give them the tools, you realize his dream has come true.
Going to prison, giving your testimony like Orlando does. Nobody does that, man. We need more people like him. Go and reach out for people that they're hopeless, Once you go to prison, there is no help. There's nobody, and having somebody like Orlando telling you, there's another chance. There is a God. There is an opportunity that you can take. I have done it. Look at me. If I did it, you can do it too. And sometimes we need that kind of people to hear those kind of things. Orlando's doing it, and I don't believe anybody else is doing it like he is. I don't know anybody, and I've been around for a long time, and I've been trying to get out of these addictions and selfish way of live for a long time. And I found it here. I believe I found something good, and Choose to Change.
Choose to Change is having an impact on the community. All I can tell you is that the city of Alton wouldn't have a church that is there without Choose to Change. The city of Blue Rock, Illinois wouldn't have a church that's there without Choose to Change. There's a glass company in town that wouldn't have the best maintenance man without Choose to Change. And the stories go on and on and on. When you change one person in that family, who's the leader of that family, who happens to be the man of that family, he's going to change that family. That family possibly could change this community. The old saying, I know it sounds cliche, but it only takes a spark to get a fire going, is true. And that's what we're doing through Choose to Change, is we're starting that fire with just a spark.
The Choose to Change ministry is growing, and it's bigger than me now. You and the volunteers and the board members that have done so much just to put this event together. I mean, this is our second annual event, and I couldn't have done it myself. And thanks to the sponsors that we have now, they believe in what we're doing. And I believe that God is going to continue bringing supporters to our little dream of just restoring families, fighting fatherlessness, drug addiction, and family violence. We're doing it. We're making it happen. And thanks to our community and the many supporters, I'm grateful. Thank you. I'm grateful.
Oh, I will rescue you.
That was a great video. So we're gonna open up for comments or questions. If anyone, it's on. Let me turn it off and then back on. Testing. Now it's on. All right. Again, that was a great video. I don't know if anyone knew, but the best maintenance worker in the glass company is our very own Eduardo Chavarria. So, come on. I remember when Eduardo came in, was it like 8 years ago? Or it was a while ago. 7 years ago, and he was just to himself in the corner, didn't want to do anything. But he found out that he could actually help with the chairs and tables and making coffee. And he's been here since then doing that and helping out Choose to Change. So I'd like to open up for comments. If anyone has any comments, any short testimonies, anything they want to say, anything. If not, I'm going to start taking donations, and I'm going to ask for a double if no one has anything to say. So I will share my own testimony. Before the class started, I was getting text messages from my little girl, and I wouldn't have that relationship with her if it wasn't for stepping into this class about 7-8 years ago, where I'm done. I don't know what to do, and then I heard about Choose to Change. I'll give it a shot, And Orlando challenged me and others about what is our why? What is your purpose? And it was, I think, my kids. Now I have a relationship where my little girl, she's texted me almost every day. Today we had like a 5 minute conversation where it's just back and forth saying I love you more, I love you too, I miss you so much. I didn't have that not that long ago. If it wasn't for what Orlando teaches here, that we can be with our families. I would like to take up our donations. Orlando, Eduardo Chavarria will be passing out the donation basket. And I'd like to thank our sponsors. We've had many sponsors. You saw on the video, all that was done through sponsors. But I'd like to highlight Fresh Imports. They're one of our big sponsors. They help us monthly or yearly. They've been there just about from the beginning. So, all right. We would like to have a question from Hugo. What's your last name? Lara. All right.
I just have a question for Chavaria, right? Because I don't know Chavaria that much. I know he knows that he doesn't like to get on the mic or anything like that because he's only done it one time in the 7 years he's been here, right? But I heard from back then that Chavaria used to be just the kind of person that didn't get along with anybody. Because I come from a gang lifestyle, and I know he comes from a gang lifestyle. And so, what made you want to not be like that no more?
I don't know. Maybe because here in the church, everybody's like over out there. Everything is fake, man. I mean, friends and everything. No drugs and everything. It's how I saw it, and I didn't wanted that, though. No, aquí es de verdad. Esto sí es freedom, como dice, y pues, o sea, sí, y está mejor para mí porque ya con toda esa falsedad, I mean, like, no, all that, I mean, I mean, I don't know.
First off, I would just want to also commend brother for his testimony. That was really good. I really liked that, Hector. That was amazing for one of us to see someone up there. You're it's just, especially, and then to see Orlando what he's done. I mean, he's had an impact in my life, and I think it's really important. I think I've been doing Choose to Change, I don't know, close to 10 years now, and I want to call it. I'm reading a book and it says it's called the they call it the critical decade, and I think we're setting ourselves up for something special, for something good that's coming up for all of our lives, because it hasn't been easy, right? And in this book that I'm reading, and I'm going to read out of a paragraph, it says, and I want to share this. I think I shared it with the group text, but I just want to share with you guys that the book says, no one travels down the river of life without encountering turbulence, which we all have encountered. You might as well brace yourself for it. There will be moments of serenity and beauty when you lean back and take it in the wonder, but there will also be times of sheer terror. Then you will be tossed out of the boat and at the mercy of the good Lord. It's all part of the ride. That's why it is necessary, before those crises arise or arrive, to get yourself stabilized, to figure out who you are and what you will do when the pressure is on. So I think that's very important for us, as far as I'm calling it also the critical decade, because I'm, headed into a new direction with my life, thanks to first of all the honor and the glory to God. But I think it's in this book, it also says that it is very easy to get off the trail and into the ditch in the morning of our lives. And that's where I find myself today, at the age that I am at, the 3 times going to prison, and now I find myself in the morning part of my life. I'm just getting started. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, that it's really important that we continue to keep moving forward, so we can continue coming to this class. I know that we've talked about here, and I'm just very proud member of Choose to Change. We have in attendance today 17 members, 17 families that are being represented here tonight, and I just want to thank everybody for their attendance. It was an awesome experience, and I'm really excited for Choose to Change and what's coming up ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm grateful for Orlando as far as like the Choose to Change Foundation, but I'm also, because I'm on both sides. I was the ex-wife of a, you know, felon or whatever, and I was also the drug addict. On both sides, I can tell you that Isabel was key to Orlando's also Choose to Change, because without her, there's no way I would have learned what I needed to learn, or without, you know, the good strong women in the church like Anna, and that guided, you know, some of us through there. So I'm so grateful for you, Isabel. And the other two.
No, I'm not sharing my testimony. No, I just want to encourage you men that are here. As the wife of Orlando, you know, it was very difficult for him to believe in himself when he first came out of prison. It was, but he would speak it out. He would definitely speak it out. And it came to a point in his life that he had to force himself, literally force himself to believe what he wanted to do. And he would read, and yes, we would butt heads because he wanted to do something, and I was like, no, no, no. But it came to a point that he was just a mover. He just had to go do what he had to go do. Eventually, he just wouldn't speak about what he was going to do. He just did it. He put action. It was more action than words. He just did it. You know what? If there's people out there that don't believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. You have to act and do. You know what? There people that are behind you, your family, your children, you know, do it for them. You know, because there's a family that loves you. No matter what you've done, they love you. And as a mother that loves their children, you know, you have to fight for your children, for your family. You are the covering to your family. You know, maybe you don't have children right now, but do it for your family.
Those were some those were some great testimonies. It was a great video. I think that's the end of tonight's meeting. I'd like to invite you all next week. I think Orlando will be here, and he could probably teach a great lesson. And thanks for coming. We'll see you next time. Drive safely.